Today is February 29th, 2024. The interviewee is Erica Markovitz. My name is Barbara Beyer. We're in Parkland, Florida. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome to my house.
Thank you. Can you please tell me your name?
Erica Markovitz.
And could you spell your last name?
Markovits.
And what was your name at birth?
Erica Sylvia Schwartz.
And could you spell Schwartz for me?
Schwarz.
And what nicknames did you have when you were a child?
Oh, I have many. My father gave me Hungarian nicknames. Kukac, Eri. That's what I remember. But he had more. I forgot.
What did your mother call you?
My regular name, Erica.
And what is your date of birth?
9/12/32.
Which makes you how old today?
91.
Where were you born, Erica?
In Budapest, Hungary.
And where in the city did you live?
Budapest. Pest.
In Pest.
Yeah.
And do you recall the street that you lived on?
Where I was living when I was born, I was living in Dobruca. I believe so it was 52, if I remember right. And after we moved to Veselényi utca 40.
Can you spell those names for me?
No.
Describe the place where you lived.
When I was older or when I was younger?
Your earliest memory.
The earliest memory I have when I was 3 years old. And I remember the apartment exactly how it was set. That was when I was born. And I was around 7 years old. We was moving to Veselényi utca 40. That was a 2-bedroom, beautiful big apartment. We have a foyer. When I was entrance to the door, we have a 8 meter, I don't know how much is by yard, a long hallway, and we have a maid room too. So actually it was 2.5 rooms and a foyer, a kitchen, a bathroom, and a toilet. That was the style back in Hungary. The toilet was in a separate room, not in the bathroom.
And how many years did you live there? Was that your first apartment?
No, I'm talking about my second one.
Okay, how about your first apartment?
A first apartment, I think I born and I was there till I was 7 years old. Because I remember I was 7 years old when I moved into the second apartment.
Can you describe the first apartment?
It was 1-bedroom, bathroom, foyer, kitchen, and bathroom.
And what was it, in a big building?
Yes, it was.
How many floors?
Oh, I think it was 3 floors.
And the second apartment?
Second apartment also, it was a big house. It was three floors, and every floor it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 apartments.
What kind of room did you have? Did you have your own room?
Yes, I did. I have my own combination room. It was not a real bedroom. It was a combination room.
Combination of what?
I have it was not a bed. It was like a couch, an open-up couch. And I have a next table to it. I have a combination of closet. It wasn't a bed, built-in one. It was a furniture by itself. And I have a chest of drawers. I have also, I don't know the name of it, but it wasn't a stove. It was a big ceramic like a statue. We have used either wood, fire, or how you call the other one?
Coal?
Cold, yeah. We have a wood fireplace, and in the middle I have a nice table with 4 chairs, and also I have a little chest with a long mirror on the wall. That was my room. My parents have a bedroom set with 2 chests, 2 closets on each side of the room. They have twin beds and a dresser with a mirror and night tables. I don't remember the heating place.
Could it be that the place that you were describing heated the whole apartment?
No, only the room.
Only the room.
Yeah.
And the kitchen?
The kitchen, it was a very cold kitchen. It was very, very cold during the winter time. Yeah. We have that's a chest for the dishes. We wasn't having a built-in cabinets, a chest of dishes. We have a table with 2 stools. We have a stove, a big stove, and we have also a big chest where we kept the heating elements, wood or coals. And also we have a burner, a gas burner, and also we have a separate oven. And also I have a tube above the sink to warm up the water. It's, I don't know the name of it. And we have a door, a big door, go out to the corridor.
Who else lived in the apartment with you besides your
My
mother?
parents, that's all, 3 of us.
Who were your neighbors?
One side of next door neighbors was, I think so, the old woman was from Spain, if I remember. A nice couple. The man was a dentist. A woman was a homemaker. They don't have no children. The next apartment, it was also 3 people, a couple with a daughter. And the next neighbor, I think it was a woman and a man and a boy, a young man. And the following next neighbor, it was a tailor upstairs. They have an upstairs in the room, the apartment, and there was a couple with a daughter. And next door to me, it was a single woman.
How many of your neighbors were Jewish?
I think none,
No neighbors are Jewish.
not on the same floor.
How did the Jews and the non-Jews get along in the area where you lived?
We didn't have no problem.
Approximately, what was the Jewish population in Budapest at that time?
I don't know.
Let's go to the family. What was your mother's name?
Margaret Schwartz.
What was her name before she was married?
Margaret Einhorn.
Can you spell that?
No. I think so. That's an English name too. Einhorn.
Einhorn.
Yeah.
Where was your mother born?
Budapest.
And do you recall what her birthday might have been?
May 4th, 1904.
Whoa. What was your mother's occupation?
She was a millionaire originally, but she had 2 wonderful hands she was able to do everything except to put the sole on your shoes. Everything. She has a miracle hand.
And did she work at that occupation throughout the war as well?
No.
Describe your mother's personality.
She was a very heartwarming woman. She was a very loving woman, but she was very strict too. And professionally, like I said, she was able to do everything what you was naming. From men's shirts to women's nightgown to women's robe, cooking everything, baking everything. She had two wonderful hands. My uncle called her, she had two golden hands.
Did she work in the home or outside the home?
In the home, she was a homemaker.
Tell me about your relationship with her.
Oh, it was very strict, but loving and care. She was providing me everything what I need. I never need anything except what she's provide me. And I never have anything what I couldn't have. I have everything.
How much education did she receive as
My mother,
as a child?
I think so, high school.
And your father's first name?
In English or Hungarian?
Try both.
Imre, that's Emmerich.
And in English?
Emmerich,
Emery. Where was your father born?
in Budapest.
What's the date of his birth?
July 28, 1899. Yeah.
His occupation?
He was a salesman,
For what kind of company?
private,
What did he sell?
menswear.
And describe his personality.
Oh, he was a very nice person, loving care for his family, and he was strict too, but he was okay.
Did you say he was sick?
No,
Oh, I missed what you said.
strict.
Strict. And tell me about your relationship with him.
It was like father and daughter. We was very close to each other. He was very careful and providing everything for me. Everything. But other kid doesn't have it. The only thing he didn't provide me was a bicycle. I said to him, this and this person also have a bike and I would like to have one. But you are not the one, you must have a bike. So you could do without it. So he didn't provide me with a bike.
And how did that feel for you? How did that sit in you?
I felt sad.
Was there any reason that he wouldn't provide one?
Nothing special, no, not because he cannot afford it, but he said when everybody have it, you don't have to have it.
What siblings did you have? Were you an only child? Or did
I
you
was the only one. My mother said I was such a bad girl when I was young. I don't need the other one like that.
Tell me about your family's economic status. How well off were they, or what were they in need of?
Well, I think so. My father provided everything what we need. We never miss anything, but they was very strict with money too. They make sure where they're spending the money and how much they're spending. And that's all what I could say.
Tell me, what do you remember of your grandparents? First on your mother's side.
My mother's side of my grandparents was deported in 1941 to I forgot the name of the country. I could say that in Hungarian, but I don't know by English.
Let's try it in Hungarian.
Lengyelország. Polish. Polish. My grandfather was coming from Poland, and he married with my grandma. And the time when they was deported, it was 1941. She doesn't have to go with him, but she kept him company because she doesn't let him go by himself. And after they took them to deport them, we never heard about them anymore. They was the first one who was deported in Hungary.
So before 1941, can you tell me about them? What you remember of them?
Well, I remember exactly the apartment where they was living. It's funny, but I do remember. I was really maybe 7 years old or so. 32, 42, about 9 years old. And my grandma was a good cook. She raised 5 children. My grandfather, very religious and kept all the Jewish holiday. And that's all what I remember. He was having a beard, I remember. And he was a tall man, a good-looking man. And my grandma was a short, little bit heavy. After 5 children, it could be allowed. So that's what I remember them.
You said she was a good cook. What was the favorite thing that she made that you loved?
Well, I remember, she was so religious. She didn't cook on Saturday or after Friday night. She was putting the cooked food into the oven and kept it warm till the next day. And I think so, the stuffed cabbage.
Was that your favorite food?
From her. But I don't remember anything else.
And she had 5 children? Those would
Yeah.
be your aunts and uncles?
Yes.
Can you name them?
One, my aunt was Terus, Ilus, Rosie. My mother was Margaret, and I have one uncle, Geza.
And how many of those aunts and uncles survived the war?
All of them,
They all survived?
yeah.
And where did they settle eventually?
Well, one of my aunts went to São Paulo. I think so, that's Brazil. And the other 2 was resigning in Budapest, and my uncle also in Budapest.
Where were they born? Where was your grandfather born?
My mother's side,
Yes.
yeah, in Poland.
And your grandmother on your mother's side?
I think so, in Budapest, but I don't know. I don't remember. I remember her maiden name, Lövi Sarolta.
Say that again.
Lövi Sarolta. Sarolta like Sarah and Lövi. But Sarah Lövi.
Can you spell it?
No.
What was your grandfather's occupation?
I don't know.
So now let's go to your father's side, the grandparents on your father's side.
My father's side was a very nice couple. My grandfather was a wood carver, making beautiful things from wood, carving chandeliers, tables, mirror, frame of the mirrors, everything what was able. He was invited to Berlin, to Germany, to make the entrance door of the parliament. They was there for a few years. My grandpa went to school in Germany. When he came back, he was 17 years old. He has to go to the army, and he doesn't know a word Hungarian, only German. When he met with my mother, then she teach him Hungarian. He doesn't have not a word to know in Hungarian. He was speaking only German.
But where was he born?
In Budapest.
And he never learned how to speak Hungarian?
Yes, he did, after my mother teach him. Oh, yes. But he was counting in German.
How did he feel about being in Germany? And what did he tell anybody of what was going on with the government?
I don't know. I don't remember. I don't think so he's ever talked about it or know about it. He was too young.
Your earliest memories of him as a person?
My grandfather, well, he was a short man with mustache. He had a little bit of grayish hair. And that's all what I remember. He had a store on his own in Budapest. When he came back from Germany, he opened his own business, and he was continuous in his field.
What was his survival during the war? Did he survive the war?
No, he passed away before the war.
And the grandmother?
My grandmother was 71 years old. She died in my apartment during the ghetto. She was with us in the ghetto time. We took her with us from the house where we have the yellow star on the entrance door. And actually, in 1944, we moved in with my grandparents because their building was pointed out for a Jewish building.
Which grandparents were they?
My father's parents. And that time my grandfather wasn't there. He passed away before. So it must have been before 1945. And after we was living there for almost a whole summer, we took her with us with other 17 people from the building that we was living there for the marked up house. We took them with us to the ghetto, to our apartment. And we have 17 people in 2 rooms, can you imagine so? And 1 bathroom, 1 toilet. And we have mattresses putting down to the floor and push the furniture all together to the wall. And we have mattresses on the floor to sleep there for 17 people, for 17 mattresses.
So then we're talking about your father's parents. How many children did they have?
4.
And what were their names?
My father was Emmerich in English. His brother was Karl, and 2 sisters. One was Lenke, other was Jolan. I don't know in English.
How many of them survived the war?
Only my father and my uncle. The 2 girls was taken from the Germans and was deported, and we never had them back again. They died somewhere.
Do you know where they were deported to?
No. Somewhere in Germany.
Approximately how many family members do you think that you possibly know of that perished during the war?
My grandparents, my mother's parents, and my 2 aunts, my father's side, that I know very well. Otherwise,
Any cousins?
No. No, only two aunts of mine and my grandparents of my mother's side.
What friends did you have when you lived in Pest?
Oh, I have a lot of friends.
Which
I
ones
have
do you,
girlfriends, I have boyfriends.
tell me which ones you remember the most?
Well, I remember one of my girlfriends, two of my girlfriends, three, four. They was all married and they all have babies. I wasn't married. I was married when I came out to the to United States. Most of the girlfriends of mine emigrated to the United States and they passed away here
Okay, so let's go.
not long ago.
Let's before we go into that. The war in Budapest started in 44. Am I correct? So that made them 14 years old.
I was 12 years old.
12. Okay. Right. Sorry. So let's go back to those friends when you were 12 and tell me about them.
Well, I was older. You want to know about my 12 years old age?
Oh, from when you were born until the war started.
Well, I really didn't have no close girlfriends that age. I was having girlfriends when I was much older, about 17 or so. But I kept contact with all of them, even here to the country, and some of them was emigrated to Canada, to Montreal, and we kept very close touch, but they all gone.
And they all survived the war.
Yes, they did.
Can you tell me about 2 or 3 of them in particular?
Well, one of them was very close. Her name was Agnes, and her husband. They have a young little girl, baby, and they moved to Montreal. And the other girlfriend of mine also married in Hungary, and I don't remember she have children back in Budapest, but they have children in Montreal. They also moved into Montreal. And the third one, her name was Judy, and her husband was Stephen. They have children in Montreal, not in Budapest.
What were their last names?
Pardon me?
What were their last names?
The last names, it was the first one, Gross, and the second one is Gabor, and the third one is Klauber. That's all what I remember. Maybe I have more, but I don't remember the names already.
Did you have any non-Jewish friends?
Not really.
When you were young, what kind of games did you play, or what kind of toys did you have? Anything in particular that you recall?
Most probably, if I don't remember, but most probably I have dolls.
Dolls. Not one in particular that you remember?
No.
So tell me, living in Pest before the war started, what's your earliest memories of walking in the streets, shopping with your parents, going to school? What is your earliest memory of living in Pest before 1944?
Well, I remember I went to elementary school,
What kind of school was it?
regular elementary school. I think it was a state school. And after I went to high school. And
What kind of cultural activities can you recall? Like movies, radio?
radio,
shows?
definitely, we was listening the Free Europe station, what was coming from America, but it was avoid. It had to be not. It was, how shall I say? I don't know the English word for it. It was not allowed to listen to this station because it was secret station. But we was telling everybody the four walls have ears, so make sure nobody hears that. There where we got the information from the word.
And what were you hearing?
Hmm?
What were you hearing on Free?
That is all political information. How is the war start and a war it is, and how is the free world, and waiting for immigration.
So while you're listening to these political speeches,
It wasn't speeches, it was information
and what kind of information were they
about the
passing?
war and about the whole situation in the world from each country, and most of them from America.
Can you tell me something specific that you
I
heard?
don't remember. It was on a daily basis.
How about newspapers and books?
But it was all false. The newspaper, it was not telling the truth.
So from 1932 to 1944, did you take family vacations together?
Yes, we did.
And where did you go?
We went to the beautiful place back in Hungary, the biggest lake. Probably you heard about Balaton. And we used to go to different stations in Balaton with my parents. I have pictures from the place with my parents, and it was a nice memory. We have a good time.
Did a lot of people from Budapest go?
Oh, yes. It was a very favorable place, yeah. But they have different towns around the lake. So it all depends which way you went, which way you like it. And all the time we went to a different place.
And name some of those places.
But it was Balatonföldvár, I cannot translate it. It was Siófok, Füred, Tihany. That's all what I remember the names.
Which was your favorite?
I couldn't say. I don't know.
You like them all?
Yeah.
Tell me about a typical day in your life, starting in the morning when you woke up. What was it like?
In my age, what age?
Well, say around 10, 11.
Well, I had to go to school. I woke up in the morning, I get my drink because I never can eat breakfast. So I have my juice and my coffee. My mother introduced to me coffee and I like it very much. And I went to school. I took the snack with me because we have snack time in the school. And when I finished, when I was finished with the school, I went home. I did my homework, and maybe I went to meet with my girlfriends. Sometimes it's not on a regular basis, and the day was over.
So it was like a normal life.
Yeah, it was like a regular weekdays.
What language did you speak at home?
Hungarian.
And outside the home?
Same thing.
Any other languages
No.
you speak?
I understand a little bit of German, but I never speak them.
So, describe yourself as a child. Go back as early as you want and continue throughout your early years.
When I was a young girl, I was a mischiever, that I know. Therefore, my mother doesn't want to have another one, because it was hard to take care of me.
And why was that? What did you do that was mischievous?
I don't remember, but I know I was a mischiever. I was doing things that I shouldn't do. When I grow up, when I get older, I became more settled, get more serious. And I could remember when I went to high school, and I don't know what to say anything about it. I was a regular girl. When I grew up, I started to having boyfriends, and they was love with me, but I didn't. I have several one, and even after, when I came out to this country, I still have a boyfriend of mine who came out the same thing to here, but we didn't keep it up. We are separated. What's the next question?
Speaking about your parents and your wonderful relationship that you had with them, knowing them so well, what values did they teach you or lessons of morality?
To be honest, to be useful, how to manage yourself with money, how to appreciate what you have, what others didn't. So I was one of a kind who was having everything. I was the person who having most everything. I have an uncle here in the state who was sending packages to us, clothes in it, used clothes, and we alternated, and I have a closet full of clothes and shoes and handbags. I have matched the colors, and I was one of a kind. None of my girlfriends have the same than I did. I have most of it. And people said that the Jewish girl is very unique because she have super everything. She didn't miss nothing. And it was the truth.
Of all the things that your parents taught you, which do you think is the most valuable to you today?
How manage yourself, your financial, and appreciate what you have, what other doesn't, and to be honest.
We spoke a little bit about the Jewish holidays earlier in this interview. What was your favorite holiday?
Not Yom Kippur. Maybe the Easter. We have matzah, and we have good baking thing from matzah meal, and soup,
You
and
say
chicken.
Easter?
Easter.
Easter is not a Jewish holiday. How about a Jewish
Well,
holiday?
the Jewish holiday is Easter. The Passover is Easter.
Passover, okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's all what I could say. We have a lot of food. My mother was a very cook, and she was a very good baker too, and was a very good homemaker. and we have most of the time we have three of us, but sometimes we have my uncle and my aunt invited to our table too.
Which uncle?
My mother's brother,
His name?
Geza.
And how did you celebrate Hanukkah, for instance?
I don't remember.
What special foods were your favorite ones during the holidays?
Well, the special food, it was in Passover, actually. That was the only Jewish holiday special food. Otherwise, my mother bought many times goose and ducks and chicken and fish. Not beef, because beef was the most chewable meat. It was not a good quality. And it was the cheapest one. Chicken was very, very, most of the time chicken, goose, and ducks.
Earlier you said your grandfather was very religious.
My mother's side.
How religious was your immediate family, your father and your mother?
They kept the Friday night. And when I want to make a manicure at home Friday night, my father said, "Do you have to do it on Friday night? Can you wait till Sunday?" He said when he was sent to the Jewish working camp and he came home safe, he said he made a promise to himself, when he will survive, then he will keep all the Jewish holiday. And he did. He didn't know no Hebrew. He didn't know how to read Hebrew. He was reading Hungarian books and kept that as much as possible. He didn't drink. He never drank. He was never right. He never worked on Saturday because that was her holiday.
And
That
this
was
all-
his holiday.
And this all happened after he went to the work camp?
Yes.
When did he go to the work camp?
Well, work camp, it was 1944 until 1945. We was freed by the Russian army, and when he came home, he was following them how fast they came, and he was following the Russian army back to Budapest to find his family.
Did the work camp have a name?
No.
What synagogue did you go to before the war?
The Dohány Templom. It's translated in English, the Tobacco Street. Probably you heard about it. It's the most beautiful synagogue in Budapest. I grew up there. I went there Friday night or Saturday morning. Many times after the war, I belonged to the Zionist organization for Jewish youngsters, and we have special service in the synagogue for youngsters, early service of Friday night, and I used to go there for service. And when I grew up and when I was older, I also went with my parents.
Who was the rabbi at that time?
I remember his name, but now it doesn't come to my mind. I forgot his name. He was a very famous person. And the rabbi was Dr. I can't recall.
Describe him to me.
It was an older man, a very religious man because he was a rabbi, and he kept the service. Oh, the rabbi was Cantor. Cantor, I believe so, yes. And
And was there a cantor there as well?
yes, the cantor's name I forgot. I don't know, can't recall. But we have beautiful services. And the men's was separated from the women's. The men's was in the main floor, and the women's was up in the first and the second level of the temple.
How easy or difficult was it for you to follow the service?
It wasn't difficult because when I went to high school, we used to have religious hours with a teacher. So we have a religion learned there, most of it, and reading also.
So then let's go to your education. How many grades were you able to complete before the war started?
Before the war started, I didn't go to school. I went to school, yes, but I don't remember.
And how many did you complete after the war?
High school.
What was the name of the school?
Dohányca, Tobacco Street. The same street when the synagogue was, but in a long part from the street, several blocks away from each other.
What was your favorite subject while you were in school?
I think it was crafts.
Crafts?
I think so.
And what did you make?
Oh, we did make different things, but actually it was creating with crayons and pencil. That's what we used to have.
Who was your favorite teacher?
Oh, it was a very famous teacher, actually. It was a geography teacher, and her name was... Oh, I don't remember, I know. I forget her name. She was a sister of one of the congressmen. I don't know her name. But it was a good teacher. And she was explaining to us, probably she was in America before, because I remember, this funny thing, I remember that she had an expression, probably she was in Pittsburgh, and she said Pittsburgh is a fume place. There is everything is in the air, fuming everywhere, smoking and fuming. And that I remember many years, isn't it something?
And so she taught you geography?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy that subject?
Yes.
Where did the locations that you were taught?
Or the whole wide world.
The whole world?
Yeah. We have atlas, we have a map, and we was using the map, and she was pointing out different things.
Was there a specific place you wished you could go?
To New York, America.
Even back in those days?
Mm-hmm.
And why was that?
My uncle was there, was living, after he was living in New York, after he moved into Long Island to Great Neck. And when I came to this country, I was going to his home. And I was living there for 10 days because I got sick. I got a measles. And I was living in the bed for 10 days. I was sleeping all the time.
While you were in school, how many hours of the day did you have to go?
We went there, I believe so, till 8 to 1.
And then what happened after 1 o'clock?
Went home.
And did what?
They was over in school. And like I said before, I have a snack at home again, and I was doing my homework. I did that very religiously, not because I was a good student, but I know my responsibility.
And you talked about Jewish organizations earlier, a Zionist organization. Tell me about that.
It was a Hanoi Hatzioni, and we had wonderful time together. We went for camping. We have different kind of gathering, touring, weekend. Many times we went up to the mountains in the Buddha side, and we went camping, and it was very nice. I remember many things. During the night we were attacking the other camp, and we make friends, lots of friends, and we have big containers food when they're cooking there. And where I was eating, I don't remember, but I remember the container where they was cooking, a big container. And we had different kind of exercise and touring and having lessons.
What kind of lessons were they?
Hebrew lessons.
And what year was this?
Oh, it was around the 50s, I believe so.
So it was after the war?
Oh, yes, after the war.
How many youngsters?
Oh, a lot, about 150 or so. In my organization, was different kind of organization by Zionists. It was a home, I was a Shomer, a Hanoi Zinoi, and many others. It was about 4 or 5 organizations.
And about 150 youngsters in each one?
I don't know the other one. Approximately, yes.
So when were you told that you could no longer go to school? What happened when some decrees came out for the Hungarian population?
I was never told that.
So how did you not go to school then?
I always went to school.
Even during the war?
Yes, I did. No, during the attacking of war, no. Then I was in a ghetto.
Well, who told you you couldn't go to school?
The government.
What did the family know about Hitler and the Nazi Party?
Well, he was killing the Jews, Hitler, and the Nazis was frightening.
Tell me about why you were frightened.
Because they was deporting the Jews and killing the Jews, and they was after the Jews to eliminate them from the ground, from the earth.
Tell me about any problems you encountered that made you fearful.
I have to think about it. It can come to my
Take your
mind.
time.
They was always hitting the Jews because the Jews always have the better life than anybody else. They could work more and harder, and they were jealous of us because most of them was educated intelligent, and provide more for the family. And they was adjusting themselves to money.
At any time, were you attacked or were you hit? Or
No,
how did you manage to escape all of that brutality?
where I was sitting down during the attack, the German aeroplane dropping bomb through the city, and they was in the shelter in the bottom of the building, and I was living on. I was always sleeping, and I didn't know why. I was eating only ungrinded poppy seeds. That's what I have. My mother had that in the linen bag, I remember that. And I was eating the ungrinded poppy seeds, and I didn't know why I was always sleeping, because it's dope. That's what I have.
How did that agree with your stomach?
I don't remember. I was too young to remember.
Tell me about the day that you moved to the ghetto.
It was in June 1944. I was entering the ghetto. We went back to my original apartment where I was living there before. And we went with 17 other people, like I mentioned before. And we got together, we get along, because we didn't have no other way to do it. And whenever the siren went on, a warning, the attack is coming, we have to move down to the shelter, to the bottom of the apartment. And we was surviving there.
How did you survive? What did you do for food?
But I don't know what my mother was eating, but I was eating the poppy seeds.
And the other people?
Well, it was full of people from the whole apartment. We went down to the shelter.
So how did they get food?
I don't know. I was too young to know that.
How long did you have to remain in the basement?
It all depends how much the attack was on. An hour, 2 hours, half an hour. It all depends. It was a bomb attack.
And what kind of damage was done?
In the buildings, many of them was damaged.
And where you lived, was it damaged as well?
No, not in that place, thank God.
And tell me about a day-to-day survival in the ghetto.
Well, we have the Jewish organization. They provide sometimes food. We have to go there to get it. It all depends when it was and what it was. Sometimes it was soup, sometimes it was vegetable, bread. It all depends. We have to go get it.
Where?
In the Jewish
But
organization.
where did you have to go?
In the ghetto. It was in the
A
ghetto.
special place in the ghetto?
Yes, it was a special place, yes. That was like it was a Jewish organization. And, but it was a few blocks away from my house to there. And you have to make sure you are going there. There is no alarm for the attack. You are not going to be on the street the time when this attack is coming. But it was very hard to know it by heart. When the alarm went on, then we know that it's coming.
Where was the ghetto located?
In the 7th district in Budapest, in Pest.
In Pest. And where was the 7th district?
In the middle of the city.
In the middle of the city.
There was 14 different districts. We was in the 7th.
And how big was the ghetto area?
Large. I don't know by heart, by meter or miles, but it was a large. It was from one avenue to the other avenue, but it was a long way. It was a large place.
When you say avenue, did the avenue have a name?
Yes, Körút, and the other one is somebody's name, Bajcsi Zsilinszky út. I don't know by English, somebody's name.
And you said 17,000 people?
I didn't say that.
Oh, I thought you said 17.
I said it was 14 district in
No,
Budapest.
people. How many people were in the ghetto?
I don't know, several thousand.
What kind of laws were enforced upon you that you were not allowed to do or that you were allowed to do?
Well, it was set by time when I was able to go on the street between certain hours in the day, and after I have to go back to my place and not to appear on the street.
What hours were they?
I don't remember the hours. It was different. It was from the morning till afternoon. I don't know by heart. And so I was limited to go to the street on a certain time.
How did they know you were Jewish?
We have to wear the Jewish star on my clothes.
And how was the ghetto established? How did they decide which houses or which?
Where it was
apartments?
it was boarded in certain area, certain street. Actually, my building when I was living, it was next door to the board, but the crossing. It was a board of the between on the street, closing up the street with a board, and that was a closing in my place. There were several different places. It was 4 different areas. It was south, west, east.
And it was boarded up with boards?
Yes.
So you couldn't get out?
That's right.
And
There was a door on it on each board.
And at what time or at what point were you allowed to get out of there?
When we was in a ghetto, we didn't have no limit of going on the street. When we was in the Jewish building, then when we have a limited time.
Tell me about the Jewish building.
The Jewish building, I moved in with my grandparents. My father was in a Jewish work camp, so we didn't know him. We didn't hear from him. And I went with my mother. I have friends in the building. I have 2 girlfriends and 1 boyfriend. And we got together to socializing. And my 2 aunt was home until they took her to the concentration camp. The Nazis came to the building, gathering the Jewish people in the I don't know the English name of the udvar.
You can say it in Hungarian.
Udvar. But it was in the middle of the building. What is this called for? The place that is surrounding the building in the middle.
Like a garden area?
Yes, yeah.
Who arranged for these buildings, for you to go to these buildings?
The government.
And why was it that they arranged for you to get out of the ghetto, to go to these buildings?
Because they want us together. The Jewish people, they want the Jewish people together in one place.
But wasn't the ghetto one place for
Yes,
you to be
they therefore they want us to leave the Marx building and the Jewish people have to leave this building to go into the ghetto. It was an order from the government.
So the Jewish buildings came first and then they took
Yes.
you to the ghetto?
Yes.
How long were you in the Jewish buildings?
I don't remember, several months, maybe for close to a year or so. I don't remember exactly.
What month did you have to go there? What month did they take you to the building?
I don't remember the date.
How long were you there?
I don't remember, several months.
And this was in 1944?
Yes.
When you were in the ghetto, how rampant was disease?
I don't remember any.
And no one was sick?
Not what I know of.
How hungry were you?
Many times I was hungry. Many times. But my mother was providing everything which was possible to go to the Jewish organization to get food, but left over,
Do you know who guarded the ghetto?
no. Oh, who guarded the ghetto? The Hungarian Nazis. I don't know how you call that in English.
In Hungarian?
Nazi. Nyilasok.
What did you know about the Arrow Cross? Arrow Cross, the Hungarian Nazis. What did you know about them?
Well, they hate Jewish, and they was torturing them if they have a chance, and bring them to work for the government.
Did you witness any brutality, or what brutality did you witness?
I witnessed my apartment windows was looking down to the street near to the border of the ghetto wall, and opposite to the building it was standing the Nyilas. And they took, when the Hungarian Jewish people went by, they tear down the gold earrings from their ears, and they took all the jewelry off from them. And that's what I was witnessing. After, when the Russian came in and freed us, we were deliberating by the Russian. Also opposite to my building was a drugstore, and there was a drugstore, and they opened up the store, and they was putting the toothpaste on the bread. They spread the toothpaste on the bread, and they drink the cologne. They didn't know better. They was very low educated people, that Russian people who was liberating us. Yeah.
Tell me about the day that you were liberated.
It was 1945, February, January, I don't know exactly. And I remember that one of the Hungarian people came to my apartment and brought 2 slices of bread spread with pork grease. And I never have a better meal in my life. It was tasted so good after I was starving from food. Yeah.
How did your stomach react to that?
Fine. Took it fine.
At any time, were you able to hide from these deportations that were taking place?
Oh yes, when we was in the Jewish pointed people building, there was a star on the door. When they was collecting the Jewish people in the garden in the middle, and they got together, and we was missing with my mother, and I was missing, and one of the Nazis was yelling at, "We're not going to leave without the Mrs. Schwartz with the 12-year-old daughter is missing. We're not going to leave without them." But they have to, because we was hiding in the shelter in the basement, and we was locked in. My mother had that time a pneumonia, and she had to cough, and she couldn't cough because she doesn't want to make a noise. And the group was leaving at afternoon without my mother and I, and the basement was locked up on us. And one of the men, after the group was leaving, many hours after that, one of the men came to open the basement door, and we was escaping. So we was hiding there. They couldn't wait till I appear again.
How did they know you were missing?
Because they know that the people who was living in there was I still don't know the name of the people who was handling the building, the people. I don't know how you call these people.
Maybe bookkeeper or something like that?
Not bookkeeper, no, they was managing the building, the manager of the building.
Had everybody's name?
Yes, provide them to the names and apartment number.
And did you have a roll call? Is that how a roll call? Did they call everybody's name?
Oh yes, they did. And I was missing, and my mother was missing too, yes.
So how did you know where to hide in the ghetto? How did you know where to go? You said you went to the basement.
In the Jewish building.
How did you know to go there?
Well, the common sense, it was nowhere else to hide.
And you were in the ghetto for how long, did you say?
From June to February. June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February. About 8 months.
What did you know about what was happening outside, either in Hungary or in Poland or in Czechoslovakia?
I didn't know nothing.
You didn't know anything that was happening to the other Jewish people?
No. We don't have no communication. No news program, but tell the truth.
How many people do you remember that were deported, you personally?
Well, I remember the time when I was in the Jewish building. It was about a good 50 people. But that time I wasn't informed about any other ones because it was locked by the news.
So let's talk about the day you were liberated.
Well, the Russian people came in, Russian soldier came in, and they liberated us, freed us.
What did they tell you?
Well, it was no communication because it was language barrier.
So how did you know?
They came and they threw away the gates of the ghetto, and they said, "Free us." Some people speak Russian, but we didn't have no interpreter.
And so the day that you were liberated, tell me about that day.
I don't remember. Just I
Where
know
did you
what
go?
I stayed home. I think so, but I don't remember.
Were you able to go back to your original apartment?
Well, I was in my original apartment. I took people from the Jewish building, 17 people I took it with us, and we was living in our apartment, yes.
Was anybody else living there that took over your apartment when you were?
17 other people.
No, other people, not the people who were in the ghetto, but like your neighbors. Did they take your apartment over? So
No,
they left it empty
Yeah.
for you?
yeah.
Okay. And now it's January.
January, February, I don't remember. I
cold
think so
winter?
it was February.
Cold winter?
Very cold winter, snow, and it was big snow pile on the streets.
And tell me about the people that didn't survive.
Well, like in the building where I was living, outside of the ghetto, the next block, that was a Jewish school, what was formed for the hospital. And they was working there, doctors and nurses. And our building, in the first and the second floor, it was annex for that hospital. And there was also was taking care of the people. And what is not surviving, I saw that in front of the building where I was living, like with a horse and like a horse and buggy, but it was no horse, just a buggy. And it was dead people was piling up head and feet like logs, like wood logs, snowed in. So it was a very, very bad memory still with me. It was full of dead people and without clothes, bare bodies.
Taken from the hospital?
Yes, from the building where I was in, the annex people, annex
How did
building.
that affect you?
Badly. Badly. It is always in my memory. It can't clear it up.
And what did they do with the bodies at that time?
Until they was able to get a horse to move the buggies, it was still there for a few days or months or weeks, I don't know. That I don't remember.
About how many bodies would you say? Just give me an approximate number.
It's about 30. It was locked, back and forth, head and feet.
How did the Soviet soldiers treat the local people?
They didn't select them. Whoever was on the street, most of the men come robotnik. That means come to work. They took them. We didn't know that where they took them. Just to robotnik. That means working.
And the women?
Well, they assault the women too, but I don't know personally the person. But it was. They was collecting chassis. Chassis means wristwatch. And what was the chassis? And I know they was after the chassis. But it was something else too, but I don't remember. I know it was something else. They was very, very badly very bad manners, no education, very low class people. I mean the soldiers I'm talking about.
So now it's 1945. You are 13, 14 years old.
13.
What were your goals at that time?
What was?
What were your goals? What were your desires?
Well, I was finishing school, high school. And after I went to learn a trade, I was a seamstress. I was learning the profession from one of my aunts was a very good professional. She used to have a salon, and
And you said your mother too had golden hands.
oh yes, yes,
Did
she
she
does.
help you as well?
Not really, not in this case, no. She doesn't have to because I have my aunt who helped me out. And also there was another woman who was recommend me. I also went to learn with her too. So when I came to this country, I went to the factory actually, but I didn't know the work because that was quantity and I was used to make custom made. And it's a big difference between. And they said in America, time is money. They don't have no time to teach me for the quantity of work. And I have 11 jobs in the first year. And I never have collected unemployment because I didn't have enough time in one place. So I didn't collect more money.
What year did you emigrate to the United States?
1957, January.
How did you get here?
I came with an army boat from Bremenhaven to New Jersey, and we arrived to Camp Kilmer. I don't know where is it in Jersey because I never saw that. Only when I was arriving to this country, we came to Camp Kilmer, New Jersey.
What was the name of the ship?
I don't know the name of the ship, but it was an army ship. We was there about 120 refugees on the ship, and we came on January on the sea. It was very, very high wind, and the water was going over of the nose of the ship, and the men's bathroom was in the nose in the ship, and they was having very bad time. They couldn't shave because the boat was constantly jumping up and down. And I remember my bathroom, they didn't have in each store, they didn't have no doors, they have canvas curtains. And we was vomiting from the jumping up of the ship. And when somebody was in the opposite side, the back of us was meeting when we was leaning down over the toilet. It was not nice.
How long did the journey take?
11 days.
And were you sick the whole time?
I wasn't sick. I wasn't vomiting. No, I didn't. Other people did, but I don't. I was eating with the people who belonged to the ship. I wasn't sick at all. They were jealous of me. And we didn't have no beds. We have hammocks in the ship, like the soldiers have.
What was your first impression when you landed in Camp Kilmer?
Freedom.
How did that feel?
Wonderful. Wonderful. But I was worrying about my parents.
Where were they?
Back in Hungary.
At any time did they leave Hungary?
They left country about 1957, and they arrived here in 1958. They were spending time in Vienna, in Austria, before they came here. And my father's brother was sponsoring them. He gave the affidavit to them, to the government, to make sure they won't be the burdens of the United States.
They needed an affidavit, but who sponsored you?
Same person.
Why did they come at a different time?
Because I was escaping and they came illegal. Their trip was legal, mine was escaping.
How did you escape?
Through the no man's land between Hungary and Austria. during the winter time, and it was all mud on the no man's land, and I was pulling my leg out of the mud on each leg of each different time to be able to make the trips. And it was night time when we was escaping.
How many people were with you?
I think so. It was about 5 or 6 of us. None of us know each other. Just we got together like a group.
And who led you then?
Well, it was farmers who was living at the borderline, and they told us where and how to go. We paid them, and he said, there where you see the lights up there, that is Austria, so this is the way you go. And the searchlight went on during the time, so we was bending down to not to get into the searchlight, so we was able to escape. It was very, very difficult. People having babies with them, and the babies was crying, or they give medication to the baby to sleep, and they sleep for a lifetime. They passed away. Yes, they have bad experience. I don't know the people, but I heard about it.
How long did it take you to get to
From one country to the other country?
To Bremerhaven.
To Bremerhaven. I went with a railroad from Vienna. I went to Graz. I was there for a few days, and from Graz I took the train. All the refugees on the train took us to Bremerhaven from Munich. We got the train, Munich, and they took us to Bremerhaven, to the shipyard.
How did you know to get on that ship? Who
It was an organization. It was
What organization was it?
The organization who helped me out. It was the IRC. That was a rescue committee, or International Rescue Committee.
How long was it till your parents came from when you got to Camp Kilmer? You said you left in 1957 and they left in 1957.
They went to Austria.
But how long in between did you get reunited?
But it was a year or so. It was a year. Because they came in 1958. Yeah.
Where did you go when you arrived in the United States?
Camp Kilmer.
But where'd you go from there?
From there I went to my uncle's house in Long Island, New York.
What was your uncle's name that sponsored you?
Kenneth K. Scott. Kenneth K. Scott. Otherwise, his name was Schwartz in Hungarian, but he picked up the English version. So
what was his last name?
In English or Hungarian?
In English, his last name?
Scott.
Scott.
Yeah.
S-C-O-T-T?
Mm-hmm.
So your first impression were you were free, and it's 1957. So you're how old?
Actually, not 1956, because I was already free in Austria before I came here.
So your first impressions, beside being free?
It was wonderful, like a free bird.
And what did you do when you got here?
Well, I went to his home, and I got sick right away. I got the measles.
Yeah, you mentioned.
And I was sick for 10 days. And he brought into the doctor, that time the doctors make house calls. And he came, and I think so he gave me some kind of medication. But my uncle said to me, that cost me $10 to come here, and it's expensive. I said, I can help it, and I got sick. I brought that germ from the ship, because I was there and 11 days, and it was children and parents and grandparents. It was all kind of people who was able to, escape and be a refugee. And after that, he took me to the city, to New York, and brought me into the, how you call that agency where provide you jobs?
Yeah. Employment agency.
Employment agency, yes. And he brought me into the Jewish organization building, the YWHA, and he gave me $25. He said to me, when you're going to work, you're going to pay me back. Even after he shouldn't say that, because my father was able to send money from Hungary to him, what he was putting into the bank, and he was earning interest on it, but he never gave it to me, and I never paid back to him. Purposely.
What was happening with the government in Hungary before you left?
Well, they was under the Russian occupation, yes.
And so, did you feel free at that time?
No.
Because?
Because we was under the Russian regulation, communism, and you wasn't free speech, and different kind of regulation, but I don't remember. But we were strict by them. And
how did you feel about communism?
I wasn't agree with it. It was Stalin that time, if you remember his name, and Lenin and Stalin. And they want to have the communism organization. They have a communist parties, and some people was agree with them. So they went to the Communist Party, and it was Socialist Party too. And I wasn't a member of the organization because I wasn't even agree with none of them, and I was young anyhow.
So you had the desire to leave?
Oh yes, definitely. I left in November of 26, I believe so, if I remember well. And we went with a big truck. It was about 5 or 6 people together. We want to do the same thing to escape from Hungary, and we was lucky enough to do so.
When you got to the United States, you were still speaking Hungarian?
Yes.
How did you learn how to speak English?
Well, I tell you something. I was telling the people when I was ever working, the last job I have in an office job, I got in a millinery section in New York, and I was asking my colleagues to correct me and teach me. I was a file clerk, so it was not difficult not to speak English because everything was written on the file. So I did the file clerk, and I got married, and I learned lots of things from my children because
let's go back a little bit. Tell me how you met your husband.
I have a dear girlfriend of mine, divorced with a little girl, and she was invite me for Saturday afternoon for a coffee, and she was inviting him too, but we didn't know that what her intention was. And we met there, and there we started our friendship. He took me home. We went to the subway, and he took me home, and he asked me, "Can I see you again?" He was a widow. He lost his wife His wife was also a survivor of the concentration camp, and most probably she have got the problem with her heart, and the doctor said to him she should not be pregnant anyway because she wouldn't be able to carry on the child. And she did became pregnant. She gave birth to the child, and I adopted my daughter. So this is not my biological daughter, but I got her when she was 2.5 years old. So we don't have no problem whatsoever.
Where was your husband born?
In Szeged, it's one of the biggest city after Budapest.
What was his date of birth?
November 12, 1921.
And where did he survive the war? Where did he survive the war?
In Budapest, hiding different places, and he was lucky. He was never in the ghetto.
And his late wife was in what concentration camp?
Yeah,
What one? What camp was she in?
I don't know.
The date you were married?
It was May 29, 1960,
And where did you live?
in Elmhurst, Queens, New York.
How long were you married?
51 years.
And is he alive today?
No, he passed away.
What was the date of his death?
He passed away 3 weeks before his 90th birthday. I don't know exactly the time.
How often do you talk about your wartime experiences?
I don't like to talk about it. I don't like the memory reoccurring. I have enough.
What kind of anti-Semitism have you experienced during your lifetime?
I tell you very honestly, I don't experience any. I am not connected with people like who doesn't like Jews. It just happened that way. Not because I want to avoid it, but it just happened that way.
What dreams or nightmares do you have about the wartime experience?
Well, when I get out from Hungary to Vienna, many times during the night I was escaping and was having the Russian tank aiming us with shooting us. And that was a terrible night. I got up in the morning very tired because the terrible, frightening situation.
Have those nightmares and dreams continued, or have they disappeared?
It's disappeared, thank God, yes. But I remember that. If I have to talk about it, I remember that.
How do you celebrate your Judaism today? What does Judaism mean to you today?
Well, I lighting candles every Friday night, and I pray the brocha on it. And I'm going to the shul during the high holidays. I don't keep it. If I have to have all the holidays, that will be every month a holiday, because we have a lot. But I keep up with the high holidays. I'm going to shul with my daughters and my son-in-law and my granddaughters.
Tell me about your family,
My close family?
your immediate family.
You mean my daughters?
Yeah, tell me first of all, tell me your daughter's name.
Melissa Luinger,
And she was born what date?
1958, April 17.
And she said, you said she was your husband's biological daughter, but not yours.
Yes.
And any other children?
I have my own, yes, I have a son.
And his name?
Gary Markovits,
And when was he born?
1962, July 7.
And is there a wife?
No, he has a wife. He was divorced from the first wife. He didn't happen to be happy. And he married about a year ago with a woman. The woman is from Thailand with 2 children, 2 sons, 13 and 15 years old. What I'm worrying about, I hope my son doesn't have no problem with the children because they both need therapy and the mother didn't provide therapy for them. One of them is a nervous wreck, 13 years old, and the other one who's 15 is stuck to the computer. He is going to leave the computer when he has to eat, and he goes back to it. It could be 24 hours if he's let him. So they both need therapy, but it's not provided to them. So I'm worrying about my son would be wind up with problem.
And Melissa, she's married?
She's married with a wonderful guy. His name is Rick Luinger, and they have 2 children. And one of them is a guiding counselor in the school and have a little son, 3.5 years, not 3.5, but 3.25 years old. And the other daughter is also a wonderful person, Monica, who is in public relation and communication, and she is excellent in her job. She loves it and she's excellent in it. She's traveling, she's communicating, she's traveling for the company, and she's the second from the top.
And is she married?
No, she's not. She was never married. I hope she will be. But if it's not a good one, it's better off without it. And she's seeing now for a young man, most probably. It's not the same religion, but they are 2 months ago. They met, and they keep up. I don't know anything further.
So you have one biological great-grandchild?
I have biology,
One
2.
great-grandchild?
Great-grandchild, yes,
You have
1.
2?
1.
1. And his name?
Elliot.
And you said he's 3.
He's 3.25, yes.
How much do your girls, your son, and your grandchildren, because your great-grandchild's too young, know about your wartime experience?
They both know, but my girls doesn't know too much. You know, as much as it was necessary to tell them. My son also knows, but not too much. They don't have the right information because it was never occurred. I have to bring up the subject.
Do you think this interview will help them understand what happened?
Oh,
to
yeah,
you?
definitely will.
So you say you don't often talk about your wartime experiences?
No.
How was your faith in God affected by what you experienced?
I always believe God.
How do you think your experiences affected the way you raised your children?
Well, it was more effective because they raised up in the Jewish home. I light up the candle every Friday. I kept all the high holidays. We went to the shul, and we still go to the shul.
How about the bad experiences that you've had? How did that affect them?
You mean the war? Well, I don't know how deeply they believe, but they listen. I don't know.
You think it's important for them to be educated about the Holocaust?
I think so, yes. I think so, it's necessary. And it is providing them more information than they do now.
Personally, what are your feelings toward the European people? The Germans, the Hungarians, the Ukrainians?
I don't have a special feeling from none because I'm not affected. I don't have no more relatives back in Europe. The German people still teaching the children Nazism. That I know, I heard, and I believe. Hungarians also, many of them against of the Jews. Therefore, once I came out from the country, I really I didn't like to go back to them.
Have you ever been back?
Yes, I did. About 10 years ago, I was back. Maybe 10 and 18 years old. 18 years. We went to see my husband's brother back because he was living in the biggest city after Budapest. We went to see their family. That was 18 years ago because I know that one of the little boy born 18 years ago. And we went back with my two granddaughters and my daughter to Europe. We went there for approximately, we went there for 2 weeks. We were stopping in Hungary too, and they have a good time there, but that was enough. I don't feel like to go back. I have friends who are going back on each year because they have a good time there. I don't have too much to go back for. I have nice memory of my teenager years. I was dating a lot, and I have a lot of girlfriends. We went together. We have a good time. We have a resort place where we went to the summertime. On the weekends, we have a cabin, and we get together there, and that is a nice memory. And we got together for weekends and sometimes evening at the Espresso in Budapest. And we went to the nightclub. We went to the theater. Actually, I went to the opera on a weekly basis. I love the opera, a certain opera. And my teenager years was nice to remember.
I know, because I had asked you about that before, about your cultural activities.
Well,
Yes, so you did like the opera.
I do.
Yeah.
Theater and opera.
Do you think you'll ever go back there?
To Hungary? No. I'm not in the condition to travel anyhow.
When you were there 18 years ago, did you go back to your original apartment and show your family where you lived?
Well, I couldn't go to the apartment, but I showed them the building and the street and the area where I was living, yes. Even my daughter remembers that because I was there for 10 years ago and I showed them too.
How would you compare what happened to you in Hungary during World War II to what's going on with Israel and Gaza now?
Would you repeat my question?
Yes. How would you compare World War II to what's happening in Israel and the Gaza Strip?
I don't know how much damage they have in Israel from Gaza, from Hamas. I was never heard about Hamas before. Actually, no, I don't know who they are. I understand they are a terrorist, but I never heard about them. I don't know how much damage. We have a lot of damage back in Hungary, in Budapest.
But as far as the atrocities are concerned, what happened with those Israelis?
Oh, I'm concerned about, yes, I do. I do feel them, yes. I feel them, I feel with them.
What do you believe we can do about all the rising anti-Semitism today and the hatred and the intolerance for people against people?
It's very difficult to kill the idea, because that's idea what they have. It's very difficult because it's always something what was they was always against the Jews. They was always jealous of them. Like I mentioned before, they was always providing better life because they adjust themselves in a different way. They wasn't a drinker, they was gamblers, they wasn't destroying family, and that's important.
So what is important to you today, and what do you believe should be important to your family?
Oh, it's a peaceful life.
Getting back to the values that your parents taught you? And the
Oh,
morality.
definitely. They also teach the children for a right lifestyle and believe in God and the right life, honesty, and why'd you say that? And please the parents, but they taught for the lifestyle, but they should live, because that will be give them for a lifetime experience. They was learning at home.
How would you say that all of your experiences, either your young life in Budapest, your life in the ghetto, your life in the Jewish house, your experience of escaping illegally, affected you as a person?
I became a better person to appreciate life, what life is providing me and give me, and I know how to adjust to it. And a value of life.
What message would you like to leave for the future, for your grandchildren, for your great-grandchildren, for your great-great-grandchildren, and all those yet to come?
Well, what I taught to my children, they will give over to their children, and I hope they're going to observe it, and they will adjust to it, and living the lifestyle what they taught with the parents. And I think so that's the best thing what they could do to teach. I mean, learning from the parents' experience.
Is there anything you'd like to add that I neglected to ask you? Take a moment and think about that for a moment.
Not really.
Then I would like to say thank you for your time.
You're very welcome, and I hope it's going to help the younger generation to learn, to appreciate life and adjust to life and keep a safe lifestyle.
Thank you. We're going to do some pictures now of your family.
Okay.
Okay, so tell me about this picture.
This is my Erika's parents. That's Margaret and Emmerich. They was happily married and having a tough job to raise me. And they was excellent people, teach me good good things, good lifestyle, and honesty, and raised me the best one they could. And I was very happy with whatever they taught me because it bring me a better person. They was excellent people, honest people, good people, loving people, and all the good things I could talk about them.
When was this picture taken?
It was taken at Melissa's wedding, and it was in 1981.
The picture was taken in 1981?
Yes, it was Melissa's wedding.
And I understand your mother made her own dress
Yes, and the hat too.
and the hat too.
Yes, and she had to made my wedding dress too.
And their names again?
Margaret and Emmerich Schwartz.
Thank you. Okay, in this picture?
My parents, also Erika parents, vacationing in Balaton. I believe so. I was about 6, 7 years old. And we have a most good time. They provide me with vacation most every year somewhere else. And it was a very loving, beautiful family.
Thank you. Picture?
I believe so. I was more than 6 years old, maybe less. I was in the part of the side of the Duna part. That's Duna, probably you know, which is the biggest river in Europe, Duna. And I was my mother made always my hairdo and a big bow on my hair. And I was always dressed up. My aunt, who was a dressmaker, who I learned the trade from, she made this dress for me. And I was always stylish and happy.
Thank you.
This, shall I talk?
This picture?
Yeah, this is my wedding picture, 1960. My husband Eugene and me, we just came out from the synagogue after the wedding, and we headed to the honeymoon. And we was 51 years together in happy life, never an argument or disagreement, and it was a happy marriage.
Where was the wedding?
In Astoria, Queens.
Thank you. And this picture?
This is my mother's brother and his wife and me in my vacation home in New Jersey, Hopetgang. And they came to visit from Austria. They was living in Vienna. And they was a loving couple, and I love them very much. They both gone.
And their names?
Her name is Magdalena and Geza.
And that's Schwartz?
This was my mother's brother, Einhorn.
Einhorn.
Einhorn, you're welcome.
And this picture?
This picture somewhere, I believe so, in New Jersey, vacationing, 3 of us, my husband, my daughter, and myself, and nothing else. I could say happy time together with 3 of us.
How old is Melissa in this picture?
I don't think so, more than 4. Approximately 4.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And this picture?
This is my daughter's wedding, 1981. Happy, happy time. It was a beautiful wedding. People talking about that even today. It was the first big, gorgeous wedding. Everybody remembers that.
And who is the pictures of? Who?
My husband, Eugene, and I.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And this picture? That picture?
That's my wedding in 1960 with my parents, Emmerich and Margaret. A happy, happy time too. I made my wedding gown together with my mother, and I kept that dress for a long time. I don't know what happened anymore with it.
Thank you. Picture?
This picture is representing four of us, my two granddaughters, Monica and Sherry, my dear cousin who is passed away already, and myself in the happiest time in Budapest visiting to her.
What year was that?
1914. Yes.
No, it can't be 1914.
2014? 2014?
2014, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, be confused.
Yeah. This picture is lighting the candle at home at Shabbos Friday night, but proving my religious feeling. I do on a weekly basis, and I'm teaching my children also for the Shabbos to preserve that holiday and don't do things what it shouldn't be done. It could be done other day, and they keep my advice, and I think so they relying on it.
Thank you.
I lost by age, I don't know, probably my daughter was around maybe 12.
And where was it taken?
It was taken in Elmhurst, I believe so, front of the public library. And my son, Gary, my daughter, Melissa, and I, in happiest time.
Thank you. And this picture?
This picture is made on my son's bar mitzvah when he was 13 years old, and we was happy and gay. He just got over of the hernia operation 3 weeks ago, but he did very well. It was a beautiful occasion too.
And this is Gary and you?
Gary and me, yes.
Thank you. Picture?
This picture is I am with my grandson, Eric, my son's son. He's a wonderful little guy, 30 years old now. Maybe he was 25 on this picture. And he's a wonderful guy. He's loving, he's calling. He never forgets grandma. And he probably was happy when he was with me for a week, not long ago. I'll try to remember. I hope he's coming again.
Where does Gary live? Oh, Eric. Where does Eric?
He's living together with his father, Clifton, New Jersey.
And when was this picture taken?
I don't know.
Thank you.
This picture, the little grandchildren of mine with my husband and I, Eugene and Erica. And this is Eugene holding Eric. I think so Eric was about 2 years old. Sherry and Monica. Sherry was approximately 8. Monica was about 4, 5. I don't know exactly, approximately.
And where was it taken?
In my house in Forest Hills, Queens.
Thank you. Picture?
In this picture, number-wise, my son-in-law, my daughter, my father, my mother, my husband, and I in New York City somewhere on the 2nd Avenue made the picture. Happiest time together.
And what was the occasion when the picture was taken?
We went to the restaurant together.
Thank you. And this picture?
This picture is a husband and I, happiest time together. I don't remember the time when it was taken, probably about 15 years ago, because he's gone already 12 years already. So most probably before 3 years, approximately 15 years.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, Erica? Erica, would you please introduce the ladies who are with you today?
Oh yes, left of me is my darling daughter Melissa. Right of me, this is great grandson of Elliot, and this is Monica, my other granddaughter, and this my first granddaughter is Sherry
Damu.
Damiu.
Melissa, how much of your mother's background do you know?
I know most of it, all of it, I think.
And her wartime experiences? How much of
Um,
that do you know?
I'm pretty familiar with her wartime
What's the
experiences.
first time you heard about her wartime experiences?
What was the first time I heard of it? I've always heard about it growing up, little bits and pieces. It was always a part of my growing up.
How has that relationship affected you, knowing what she went through during World War II?
My relationship with her? I don't know if I can say it directly impacted my relationship with her. If anything, it made me respect, it brought her up to a higher level, knowing what she endured, her and the entire population.
The family specifically?
The family specifically, plus, but it touches me very deeply. So that's just on a personal note.
Why was it important for you to have this interview conducted?
I feel that it's very important, for everybody's story to be told, because there's so much denial, and I know that it's very hard for her to go back and talk about the stories, and it took a long time and a very dear friend of mine to finally tell her, you need to tell your story. Even though your story may not be as atrocious as other people's stories, it needs to be told. And that's why it was so important for her story to be told.
And what would you like to say to her to record this for posterity?
Oh, sure. Don't breathe.
What would you like to say to record this for posterity? To her.
What would I like to say to her?
Yes.
Thank you for being my mom, for choosing to be my mom. I have been blessed by having the unconditional love of this woman who chose to be my mother. And I have been blessed in this life to have the love of two mothers one who gave her life to me and gave her life for me because she died. She was told, do not have this baby because you won't survive. And she didn't after she had me. And she said, I will not give this baby up. And then when my mom, this is who my mom is, met her love and said, no, I have a baby. She was like, okay, no problem. Took me in as though I was hers. And her parents said, treat this child, be careful how you treat this child. What God took away from her, you can never replace. But she has.
Under the circumstances, if it's not too painful for you, to tell me what happened with your mother, your biological.
My biological mother had been through concentration camps.
Do you know which one?
I know she had been in Bergen-Belsen, Auschwitz. She'd been to a few. The story has it that she had caught strep throat, probably was not treated very well, if at all, amongst many other horrific diseases. Probably went to strep throat, and then went to rheumatic fever, affected her heart, and when she got pregnant, she wasn't strong enough to sustain the pregnancy and delivery. And make a horrible situation short. That's the story.
Thank you for sharing that.
Gladly. The world needs to hear what horrificness has happened and is going to continue to happen if we don't find some light in the dark places and find peace and love and acceptance of each other somehow, somewhere. And thank you for doing this. And out of that, I have I have my life right here.
And what did you know, you two girls, about your grandmothers and your grandfathers?
Sure. So I think Grandma shared her war stories with us when we were older. I don't have a great memory to begin with, so but there's a specific part of her story that I always remembered, and it was her eating poppy seeds on the way over and how it made her sleepy. And this, I don't know why it is like that fine detail from the story that I always remember from the first time she told that story. And I remember her just sitting and she was stating it so matter of factly, like this is what happened. And I don't want to say there was so much emotion in it. It was fact. It was, this is what happened to me. And, that story stuck with me. And I think it's very important that it's shared from generation to generation. And, so I think maybe she told the story to us maybe 2 or 3 times while growing up.
So you remember that specific story, but what other experiences impacted your thoughts and your memories?
Okay, so one of the memories that I have most was going to Grandma and Grandpa's for high holidays. So we always had, while we were growing up, we always had Rosh Hashanah, Passover, Yom Kippur, I think was
The three,
Yom Kippur too.
the
So
high
those 3
holidays.
holidays, and we're always at their table. And I remember it would go on and on, which looking back, it probably wasn't that long, but I was young, right? We were young. But it would go on and on because my grandfather would just, he would just say every prayer, every word
And
of
mumble
every
them.
prayer. And Grandma would be bringing out the food and serving us. And I remember those nights growing up and being there, just enjoying the Judaism. And, that's where a lot of the Judaism in our family comes from, is from Grandma and Grandpa and having these experiences. And as an adult, now that we have the big house, we now do the Seders and we do Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So it's generation to generation. It's really carried on door by door. And, my son now goes to a Jewish day school. And, Judaism is just, it is all over. It is ingrained in us. And it's part of the footprints that we leave on this earth.
So you would say your grandmother did an excellent job and your grandfather did an excellent job on teaching you about your heritage.
Yes, they really did.
And now I'll ask those same questions to you. If you'd like me to repeat them, I'd be happy to.
I always love a good repeat, kindly.
And what did you know about the experiences of your grandmother and grandfather while you were young?
So growing
At
up,
what age were you when you found out?
sure. So I had known from a very young age, I would say between the ages of 6 and 7, that my grandparents and their very close family and friends were all victims of the Holocaust, whether it was in a ghetto or in a concentration camp, being a survivor of any sort.
What did you think Holocaust meant at that age?
I had learned early on in Hebrew school what the Holocaust was in general. At that age, we weren't very much learning about it, but I knew of the word and I knew that it was part of the Jewish history. Other than that, I knew nothing about it. The first time that I did learn about it wasn't necessarily from my grandmother and my grandfather directly, but I was brought into a room to meet, Mom, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a group of my grandfather and grandmother's closest friends, and essentially all of them had numbers tattooed on their
I
arms.
remember this too.
And that was the first time. And it was very, for me, I would call it, at the time, traumatizing. And since then, as an adolescent and early teenager, and even through my teenage years up until today, I have been a lot more sensitive when it came to being exposed to Holocaust content, whether it was Hebrew school discussing it. So from Shari's memory saying about the poppy seeds and things like that, I did not know about my grandmother's history at all. I didn't know about grandma's history at all until we went to Hungary. And when we went to Hungary, it's the most beautiful place I have ever been. And I know that I believe, and especially after, listening to my grandmother's interview, that it was extremely important for her to bring us there. And she had, I will sidebar on a very personal relationship that my grandmother and I have, but she had mentioned on this trip, and I had asked her about it, how do you feel about going back? She didn't go back for herself. She didn't want to go back. She said, she didn't feel a need to go back. What happened, happened. And how Shari spoke about her, my grandmother has always spoke very matter of fact, as she did in this interview today, about her experience. Not once does she use we, does she use I, unless you're prompted to. It's about them and what happened to the Jews. And she is a Jew. She's a proud Jew, but by no means is she like, this is what happened to me. So when we went to Hungary, it was very much for us to learn about what happened. And not only what happened, but the good times, how she grew up, the amazing things she was describing about her teenage years. So we went and we got to see the ghetto that she was in, the courtyard that she was referring to. And then we actually saw the ruins. So what my grandmother was describing in her interview was how certain places in Budapest were bombed or, completely ruined. And they turned this row of demolished homes, businesses, etc., into this incredible row of what they call the ruins. And that's where young people go to enjoy themselves, have drinks, be with each other, exchange memories and stories, etc. So to see and witness, and we even went back there a little later, but to witness and understand that the community of Hungary, the Jewish community of Hungary, where a ghetto was, took that and revived it into a place that people can enjoy and really turn around the memories that were made. The memories don't go away, but change the definition of what that space was. After that, we headed to Grandma's cousin's house, and very organically, for the first time, she started talking about the Holocaust, and I felt that it was very important for me to pull out my camera with the good old iPhones we started out with. And we captured, I'm not sure how long, I feel like it was about an hour or so, but that's when I really, really learned organically about my grandmother's journey and what had happened. And it was such an incredible experience because it was so organic to hear the conversation, and it wasn't her telling a story. It was them shooting the business about what had happened. And again, speaking matter of fact about it and exchanging stories of where they were when they weren't together and what had happened to both of them. And that was after my grandfather had passed away, many years after. So I only heard of the stories that my grandfather went through my mother. I knew that he fought the Nazis in a sense. He was a freedom fighter in a sense, and he was actually I don't know if I'm supposed to tell. I don't know. He's a bad boy, but he was in prison. My grandfather was in jail for fighting for the Jews.
Yeah.
You don't know? Is a secret?
Yeah,
He told me.
They bombed the jail and he escaped from there.
Yeah. So to hear those stories are just incredible. So that is how long-windedly I learned about the Holocaust and their involvement.
When you were in Hungary, had they already memorialized the Danube River?
Oh,
Yes,
yes,
we had visited the temple. We visited the temple, the memorial of it,
Shoes.
and yes, we went through the shoes.
That's what she's talking about.
Yes, yeah.
How did that impact you?
It was so hard to learn about everything that we learned about, and then to see it in real life, people's real shoes, children's real shoes, all different types from all different literal walks of life, and the only thing in common between each pair of those shoes is that they were all Jewish. That was a really hard and very important portion of the trip for me. I did not know what it was or what I signed up for, and I definitely separated myself from the group and took some time to really digest it and really connect what my grandmother and grandfather went through, because like I said, and like we all say, grandma is extremely strong. She runs everything, and she's not weak by any means. And it was then where I really solidified, my grandmother is a hero and also a human, and these are all of our families sitting here. So because she was so pragmatic about it, to really see evidence right there was very emotional for me personally.
Erica, did you witness any of that action with the Jewish children and leading them to the damage? Did you witness it at all?
No, I just heard about it.
Can I add on to that though?
Yes.
So I had a different experience because how I saw it was, it's never forget, don't forget. And what that showed me was that we're not forgetting. And we are never going to stop forgetting. And we're going to continue to tell this story, whether it's through interviews like this and speaking with people and families, or it's memorialized things of what happened. And so for me, it was more of, this is here and everyone can see this, and you cannot deny that this is what happened. And that's the type of view that I saw it with, because it was very emotional, but just in different ways.
And when I send them pictures every once in a while of us being there, that picture just evokes that emotion from all of us again. And then we have this joy to bring us back.
So now that we're concluding this interview, what would you all like to say to each other, to your grandmother, to your mother, to each other, to your grandson?
Before I do that, can I address
Sure, anything.
our generation and those to come? Based on October 7th and what's been going on in Gaza and in Israel, what my sister said when we went to Hungary very much reflects what we speak upon today and what we live by, which is tradition, strength, and keeping each other together as a family, and to never forget. And what has happened throughout these months is completely devastating on another level, because to know what my grandmother and people her age went through, to have to see this, whether she's blocking it out, whether she doesn't watch the news, she doesn't choose to, she already went through this. But for me, as my grandmother and everyone else out there, for us to watch this generation see this twice is unlivable and is absolutely disgusting. So all I can say is we all should always stick together, and we should never forget. And that is exactly why I was so heartfelt to know that this was being captured, is because this video is so important, and it's more important than vanity being on camera or not having a script prepared. It's about memory and never forgetting. And if anyone watches this, this is proof. And that we will continue to fight to hold our traditions and hold our chins and our chest high as being Jews of such an amazing and fulfilling history.
And I hope your generation and the generations that follow.
That's our responsibility and our pleasure.
I love you, Mommy.
What I would like to say to my grandmother is just thank you for being you. Thank you for helping to raise us. They were very involved in her childhood, very, very. We were always with them all the time. And so you had a major impact. Grandpa had a major impact on who we are, which in turn has an impact on, who Elliot is and whatever other generations come from us. And thank you for making sure that the Jewish religion stuck in our family. I may not be so religious, but Judaism culturally is very important to me and my family. And my husband was not that into it, and he is becoming more and more of a Jew every day because of what I can instill in him, which in turn comes from you and comes from you. And you have created a family of strong, strong women.
Yes.
And I think that's very important in this day and age. And, and I thank you for that. And we are going to carry it on for you. And when you are no longer here, we will continue to carry on
Thank you very much.
Your strength.
Thank you, and I love you
We
very
love
much.
you very much, Grandma.
You was a wonderful child. It was
Oh,
a
I know that.
happy time together.
Yes.
Both of you were very nice memory for both. And I'm very happy you was inherited the Jewish tradition. You went to Hebrew school, both of you. You was bat mitzvah, both of you. And it was a beautiful occasion. And thank you very much. You are taking over our heritage.
Thank you, Grandma. Thank you very much, because it's the most important thing in our life, I feel, because it keeps us close and it keeps us strong. And we're going to continue that tradition.
Thank you.
And specifically to my grandma and actually one of my best friends, I had the opportunity, the honor of actually living with my grandma for 3.5 years during some of the most important time in my life, which is the beginning of my career, which is what she was mentioning. So I actually lived with her, and she's the best roommate I've ever had. And this woman may be 91. She's got the brains of, she's got a better memory almost than I do. So Judaism for me, like Shari said, very much about tradition and the family and being together and carrying those on more than the beliefs and, religion. And so the biggest thanks that I can give you is everything that you've done to create the strength that my mom has, that our mom has. And we've always known about Sarah our entire lives. And I think that that is the most beautiful and selfless thing, that you've embraced the fact that you took mom in and made her the woman that she is. And in turn, everything that we are is because of you, because of what you instilled in mom.
She was always a beautiful, good child.
She was a good kid, apparently. But everything that Shari said is very much true, and I just double down on that. You are extremely phenomenal.
Thank you.
And because of that, whether I do marry Jewish or not, for me it does not matter about who I love. It is very much about the children that I have and instilling the Judaism and carrying that along. And as long as I find a partner who is supportive of the Jewish journey, my children, and if I do have, they will be raised fully Jewish, and it will be not only in yours and Grandpa's honor, but because that's exactly what I believe in, and that's exactly what I've learned, and that is what I want. And you've taught me that.
Thank God.
From the minute we've talked about boys, girls, work, makeup, nails, everything. You're my best friend.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you too, darling. Both of you.
I think you said it all.
I think they've said it all.
I think you said it all, and I thank you all so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.